Well, good evening, good evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. WeatherBrains, episode 1036 for the 24th of November, 2025. Getting that close. We are getting that close to our 20th birthday, which will be in January. 20 years old, 20 years of this nonsense. If you're looking for the actual show content, move the slider over about 10 minutes. And if you've never watched this before, this is the pre-show. It's magical. This is an amazing part of the program where we typically do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time we say outrageous things. If anybody gets in trouble, it's typically for something we said during the pre-show. This part of the show is not on the produced podcast. Most people listen to the audio podcast. This is only for those that dare watch on the YouTube. So let's see here. We are watching this out to the west tonight. And again, we are live at 6:50 p.m. Central Time on the 24th of November. And you can see we've got just good old-fashioned rain and some thunder and lightning through East Texas and Northwest Louisiana, South Arkansas. No tornado warnings, no severe thunderstorm warnings. So far, the storms have been relatively behaved today. We had one tornado just northwest of Houston early this afternoon. But other than that, it's been kind of a non-event, just rain. And again, that's moving on to the east, and we will see that here in my world tomorrow. And of course, if you look at the socials, this was going to be the tornado outbreak of the century, death, doom, destruction, nonstop tornadoes, blah, 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 blah. The hype train left the station this morning, and it's just, that horse is out of the barn. There is nothing I can do about it. But somebody has to be a voice crying out in the wilderness. And I try to do that. And again, there's a low-end risk of a few severe storms where I am. And for those that don't know, I'm in Alabama. But it's all out of phase. In the morning, we're going to have the storms come through with no surface-based instability, but good wind dynamics. And in the afternoon, new storms form with instability, but fading wind dynamics, fading fast. And it just looks like kind of a deal like that. But we'll see. Remember, when it comes to thunderstorms, what do? Expect the unexpected. So as always, we are watching radar trends. So we'll do enough of that. Let's start to bring in our guests here. But it's Thanksgiving week. Hopefully, if you're traveling, you'll have a good, safe week. The weather Wednesday actually looks pretty good. All my career, I've always heard that the day before Thanksgiving is the busiest travel day of the year. I have no way of knowing if that's true or not, but it makes sense. And really, much of the country, it's kind of quiet. We got Bill Murray live from Railroad Park in Birmingham there.
It's a little chilly out here tonight, James.
I was going to do the weather live Friday over here at the Region Center for where they light the stocking and the Christmas tree and everything. And as it turns out, there's no news because of football. The Black Friday, they have football games.
Yeah. So
I've
got my
idea.
green wall construction behind me, so I decided I would cover it up with the Zoom background.
It's always better when you got a green wall, because I see some people, they try and key without a green wall, using the zoom effect, and their head gets lopsided. They have no ear, and it just doesn't work well. Robert, I'm sorry. Can you hear?
I didn't even the camera. Yeah,
we have an important guest here. Robert, can you hear us?
I'm so excited.
Hi guys, I got you. Good evening.
Hey, Robert.
For both of you.
Robert, I apologize in advance for this whole mess that you've gotten yourself into. But once you're in it, you can't get out of it. You can't hang up on us, okay?
No, I won't.
Just take your internet going out, Robert. It works every time.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you guys. You appreciate it. guys have a lot of experience and legendary. So I thank you for having me on. Very much so.
You
We'll
were
start
our
in
first draft pick when
just
in the
just so
Fox Weather
you'll
fantasy in the fantasy draft. You were number one.
That's
just so you'll know, we'll start the show at the top of the hour. We can't start until the top of the hour, and we disclose this to all guests. We are live on YouTube now,
awesome.
and the way it works with this show, about 75% of the people listen to the produced audio version, which will be released tomorrow morning. About 25% watch this.
Right.
But we are streaming live. Not that you would say anything inappropriate. Not that you would ever say anything
No,
inappropriate.
no.
But we do. That's our problem. So
I know.
the,
You know, it's funny. I'm putting out post all the coverage that everyone sees on Fox Weather and social media. The past 4 days, I've been putting out what I'm calling Robert Ray Raw, which is a chronological, uh, raw look at every single day of our coverage. And for example, I'm on part four launched today, and literally part two, three, and four encompasses one day, and that is the aftermath, the day after Hurricane Melissa's impact. It goes more what we did in the morning, afternoon, and then into the late afternoon, evening. And there are some things in there that I just kind of let roll. Not that it's anything bad that I'm saying or my colleagues are saying, but that's what I want to do. I want to give that transparency as to what it's really like to be in the trenches, and not something that's uber polished and put together like a lot of the networks do, you know?
no, that's what people want. They want real.
Yeah.
They are looking for real people with real experiences, and the raw stuff. I like it. I mean, it's like yeah.
Yeah.
Polished is polished is so 1990s. It's just
Yeah. Thank you.
uh,
I agree.
I've not been polished for a long time. I will tend to take things right down the tubes here. By the way, I wish my name, Bill Murray, was Robert Ray. What a great name!
Oh
Golly,
no, that's a great broadcast
Robert
name, isn't
Ray,
it?
Robert Ray.
It's real.
There was a guy in Dallas when I used to work in Dallas at the CBS channel before you were born, Robert, and there was a reporter named Richard Ray. And I thought that was a great name. I mean,
Right.
Richard,
Yeah.
is that your real name? And yeah, it's my real name.
I
But
don't know.
Richard,
I'm
he was a great
51.
reporter.
I may have been born. I'm getting there.
I'm old as dirt. Yeah, yeah, you're a kid. I've got underwear older than you.
There you
Uh,
go. There you
so,
go.
so, so you would have been about 10 years old when I was on in Dallas.
Okay.
This was
There
back
you
in the
go.
mid 1980s.
Nice.
It was, I look back on it, and I am so blessed to have worked the glory days of
Yeah.
Ron Burgundy broadcast. Those guys made so much money in the 1980s. They honestly did not know how to spend it.
I know.
I've shared this story in here before. I got a call from the news director about 11 o'clock one morning, and he said, "You got a live shot at 5 and 6 o'clock." And I said, "Great, where?" He said, "The National Hurricane Center." I said, "Yeah, right, where?" He said, No, the National Hurricane Center. They had a Lear jet waiting on me at the Addison Airport
Oh my
and
God.
flew me down there. This was for Hurricane Gloria, which had nothing to do with North Texas.
Right.
And I did the weather in HC and then flew back on the Lear jet. And
Oh,
that's how crazy it was back in the 1980s.
yeah,
But
I've heard stories, and it was the golden age, right? I mean, there's no doubt.
They
Unbelievable
they
time.
they they were charging probably $7,000-8,000 for a 30-second ad, and you run 5 ads in a break, and you've got 5 breaks in a newscast, and it adds up, and it's just it was an amazing time. But I look back on that, and the one thing I'm thankful for. We had a horrific jet crash at DFW Airport. An L-1011 went down, a Delta flight from Fort Lauderdale during a thunderstorm. And John Gordon, you know the one I'm talking about. This was on an August afternoon, about 6 o'clock in the evening, and the guy flew into a thunderstorm. And I was on the air, and my station did not do a good job, but Channel 8, the station down the street, the ABC channel, the Belo station, this is during the glory days at WFAA, and Watching those people handle that with live, long form coverage for hours and hours and hours. The reporters were good. They knew what they were talking about. They knew the territory. They knew aviation. That still to this day, that blood runs through my veins of what I saw that night. And I'm thankful that I had a chance to see some really good work during the glory days of the 1980s in TV news. So anyway, let's see. We are. Let me get my bearings straight here. All right, we got to, and we're going to join local television here in a couple of seconds, and then we'll get the recorders going. We'll get going. I know that Rick Smith is traveling back from Memphis. He might not be able to join us tonight. Kim should be here shortly. I know that Jen has, I think, lost her voice, or she's dealing with a little health issue here, so she's not going to be able to join us. But everybody else should be here. So this is going to be a good show. And let me welcome all of you watching on the television side. I do know that we have some active storms that will come in after midnight tonight here, but there's nothing happening now. And the overall severe weather risk tomorrow morning is very low. But anyway, it's WeatherBrains. It's Monday night. You know the deal. So let's get these recorders going. We'll start the show. Track 1 is recording. Track 2 is recording. And here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to WeatherBrains. They're kind of a big deal.
Ooh, kind of a big deal, according to that man, Bill Curtis, the real Bill Curtis. Hey, this is WeatherBrains, episode number 1036, 1036. For the 24th of November, 2025. We're getting so close. We are 2 months away from our 20th anniversary, 20 years of WeatherBrains. We first went on with our first show in January of '06. So we've been here a long time. We are not the best weather podcast in the world, but we are the longest running podcast in the world. Troy Kimmel, you're in there in my generation. We've been around here a long time, and we're still going. They said we wouldn't be here in 2025, and here we are, buddy. We're still here.
August 2nd, 1985, the morning after I was out at DFW with DFW Public Safety on that accident site. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Those were the interesting
days. And by the way, but yeah. Let's bring people up to speed on what we're talking about. What we were talking about was not on the audio podcast. Right, we were discussing I was in Dallas doing
Delta
local television.
191.
In the mid 1980s, and it was a Friday evening during the 6 o'clock news when this crash occurred, and
very isolated storms too. Very isolated. Yeah. The one that was out there was on the northeast side of DFW, and it's the reason that so many people nowadays, James, we hear from people who say, well, we circled or held outside of Dallas or Austin, anywhere there was a thunderstorm over, and that's exactly the reason why. That and the combination of the Pan Am crash, I think in New Orleans in the late 70s, and even the Little Rock. There was a Little Rock American crash during the thunderstorm in the early 2000s. But and then you have to look back, James, at the thanks we have to give to Dr. Theodore Fujita, who some people thought he was a fool. He was a genius. We know him for the tornado scale, but he was one of the first people that really got in there and fooled Eastern Airlines. John, you mentioned that as well. The man was a genius, and he was one of the first people that fooled around with the microburst stuff. So, yeah, and those were the TV glory days back in the day.
Yeah, and we had one here in Birmingham. Same That's thing. Right. This was a commuter jet that crashed out in Inslee, which is in the western part of Birmingham. Bill Murray, what year was that? It was in the 1990s.
Would have been around 92 or 93, L Express flight.
It was a flight from Mobile to Birmingham, and it went down under very similar situations. Yep. So we're very thankful that the aviation industry has learned a lot from those horrific accidents. But
that was on July 10th, 1991, James.
Okay,
the little Beechcraft C-99.
Yep.
But we've learned so much. But again, watching WFAA cover that Dallas crash to this day has a big impact on me and what I do during severe weather. And I did not work for WFAA. I worked for the competition down the street, KDFW, Channel 4. But
and of
boy,
course,
they
that
were on
night
top
I was
of it.
watching James Spann. I was absolutely watching James Spann that evening in Dallas. So.
Yeah, but it was just horrific. But anyway, so we're thankful we have nothing like that to discuss. I do see John Gordon. John has a passion for the science. He has a passion for people. He is one of the most robust, entertaining meteorologists that you will ever hear, if you ever get a chance to hear him speak in person. And John, it's an honor to have you on this show.
And spokesman for Aer Lingus Airlines. So. Sorry, John. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Thanks for the setup there, Eagle One. So, Robert Ray, I love your name. It's good to have you here.
Thanks.
And weather weenies out there, if you want to learn something, go to Eastern Airlines 66 in 1975 in Kennedy.
Yep.
And then you go to Kenner 759 Pan Am on takeoff. I think he got 100 foot in the air with a microburst. And then James just alluded to Delta 191. In all those cases, a man named Theodore Fujita defended Eastern Airlines. Do you remember the NTSB report? They tried to blame the pilots. They didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
We've come a long way, haven't we, James Spann?
Oh, goodness gracious. It's a new world, and we should be thankful for this new world because we're safer when we fly. It makes me wonder what it's going to be like in 40 years from now, the things that we'll learn that we don't know right now.
We may be headed back to Stone Ages now. I don't know.
We may be going backwards, Tony.
Yeah, we might be. No. We have young people like Dr. Kim Cloko McLean. As long as we have young people like this, we're going to be in good shape. Commissioner, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Fortunately, nothing dramatic going on over here, but it is interesting. I've really enjoyed this year getting to be part of conversations about an NTSB-like entity for weather disasters that we could possibly get sometime in the future. There's enough policymakers thinking about it, talking about it. I've gotten to advise some of them. I think that's the more exciting thing going on in my world these days. But it is a thing where you really want to make sure you do those investigations thoroughly. Coming to the wrong conclusion, blaming the wrong person could be done all too easily if you're not careful, and that doesn't advance anybody. So, something for us to take to heart if we were to try to stand up something like that for weather communication, and just thinking through, we've got to be really clear-eyed about what the expectations are, what's reasonable, how everything works together, which is going to be part of the conversation tonight. We'll talk about the broadcast community and some of the wonderful ways it's growing and changing, evolving. And anyway, I'm doing great and just very happy to be here and part of our community.
Speaking of broadcasters with excellent communication skills, Dr. James Adelot up Interstate 44 is on the line. James, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. And despite Kim goading me, I will not talk about this team being the Alabama State champions at all.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle. I'm about 3/4 of the way finished with all the interviews for my dissertation data gathering. So we're getting there. Now I have to code all that stuff.
Yeah. If anybody can do it, it's all you.
Absolutely.
But let's bring in Bill Murray and bring in our guest before he hangs up on us. Bill, let's bring him immediately.
Yeah, hopefully he won't do that, James. Tonight's guest WeatherBrain is a Fox weather correspondent based in Atlanta who's covered major events, including Hurricanes Ian and Idalia, and of course, just recently, Melissa, a veteran reporter. He previously helped launch Fox Business Network and has worked for the Associated Press and multiple outlets worldwide. Robert Ray, welcome to WeatherBrains.
Thank you, guys. It's an honor to be here, Bill, James Spann, James, Kim, Troy, and everybody. Seriously, thanks for having me. I've listened to you and watched you guys in the past before, so it's an honor to be asked to be on your program.
How long has Fox Weather been on the air, Robert?
October of 2021, but we put wheels in motion essentially April and May of 21. But we officially went live with the stream, which is not only on the Fox Weather app, which is free, but on every carrier across America, YouTube TV, Comcast, you name it. And then, of course, maybe the most important thing where you can catch us is on a regular YouTube, which is a free stream, and you can get us anywhere in the world, which is becoming something that we're realizing is a real asset. And we can get into that later, but specifically down in Jamaica, it was a major asset for people to be in the know as to what to expect with Hurricane Melissa.
Robert,
Well,
I have a question for you that's kind of tied to what Bill was asking you. That's you think about 2021, smack dab, if you want to find the middle of COVID. I think that pretty much is that time period. Were there any special issues doing all that and getting a Fox Weather launched and so forth? I never thought about that until you mentioned that launch date.
Yeah, I mean, it was postponed originally, because 2020 is when, we all found out about it, what, February or March. And then, as we all went through it worldwide, things began to slow down. And I could tell you that at the time, within Fox, it was required for anyone who was going to go out into the field, into the trenches, and start to cover anything, even at that time, we were asked to be, vaccinated. And so still it was very, very, tightly monitored, and yeah, certainly huge risks going on during that period. I mean, I remember in February of 22, so 4 months into the launch, I'm in Minneapolis covering not a blizzard, but pretty darn close. And boy, all of a sudden I went down for the count. That was my first time getting COVID, actually. And it was interesting as, previously, before joining Fox Weather, I was freelancing for Washington Post, and my job with WAPO during COVID was to literally drive the entire country. And I did 39 states, tens of thousands of miles, and look at communities and cover them from not only a print standpoint, but also video, photographs, and I was really boots on the ground when a lot of media was not out there. So it took a long time for me to get COVID, certainly, but yeah, it was a challenge for Fox Weather, most out.
Well, we've been waiting all this time to have someone from Fox Weather, and you were my first draft choice, Robert. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We don't want to keep you too long. Can we have 45 minutes or an hour of your time? Is that too much?
As long as you guys want. As long as you guys want. Yes, absolutely.
Don't say that, Robert.
Well,
Let's do 45 minutes
careful.
to an hour.
Careful.
Fine.
Bedtime
Careful
for
what
Troy.
you ask
Okay.
for. We've been on at 11 o'clock before, so we'll try not to take it that long.
No worries. If it goes that late, you may see me move over and crack a beer at that point. So
Oh, okay.
we'll see.
I can't say
Show
there aren't
title.
a couple of adult beverages occasionally consumed in some windows on the show from time to time. So
There you go.
so no problems there. But Robert, take us through your career journey. I know Troy touched on it a little bit, what brought you to Fox here, but
Yeah.
take us through that because it's very interesting.
Well, yeah. So I'm a 1997 graduate of University of Nebraska School of Journalism, focus on broadcast, radio, and TV at the time. Moved, to my first job in South Dakota. Went the traditional route. Went small market and fought the way it used to be done in the world of media and television. Then moved on. I'm originally from Chicago, and I moved back to Chicago. Did work with WTTW, which is PBS there. Did some stuff with Bill Curtis. I heard you mention him. I heard his voice too. Did some cold case files. I was an editor. I was a producer, photographer, and then got back really to my roots, which was the news industry, which is what I studied, at Nebraska. And began with HD News, high definition news, owned by the Dolan family, who owns previously Cablevision and Madison Square Garden, all that on the East Coast in New York. We were the first HD network to launch globally for as far as 24-hour news. And that job was a photographer and a producer, not on television. And that sent me all over the world. that sent me to the war in Iraq, that sent me to the London terrorist bombing, that sent me to Pakistan, Kashmir, 2005 earthquake that killed well over 100,000 people. It sent me to the tsunami, the Christmas Eve tsunami in Sri Lanka and Indonesia. So really gave it an incredible opportunity. And then domestically, every natural disaster, every named storm, every tornado, political events, unfortunately, mass shootings, I was on. And then, moved on to Fox Business in Chicago. They were beginning that operation in 2007, Chicago being a real hub for Fox Business because of the trading floors. At the time, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, Chicago Board of Trade opened that up. I worked with legendary reporter Jeff Flock. I was his producer and reporter, and he and I went out and covered many, many hurricanes, tropical storms. Even though we were with the Business Network, we took that sort of economic angle when we were out there, and then Fox News Channel would take Jeff. So I did that for 4 years and then realized at some point after long conversations with Jeff and others that I think I wanted to give a shot at reporting. I felt that the industry, in my humble opinion, needed more depth and needed some more immersive style storytelling that went along with the technology that was coming out at that time. We're talking about GoPros and other things like that. So I went to the Associated Press, worked there for almost 3.5, 4 years. I was in Chicago, then transferred to Atlanta. I was what you call an MMJ. I did everything. I had a byline, still photos, video stories, you name it. And I got sent all over the country and sometimes internationally. And then a strange thing happened. Some ABC producers in New York called and said, hey, we've left ABC News and we're going to Al Jazeera America, which is, part of Al Jazeera English. And they opened up this whole broadcast facility in New York, opened up bureaus all over the country. And I had just moved to Atlanta, actually, with the AP about 7 months previous. But the opportunity was great. They wanted to make me a correspondent and allow me to still shoot and produce as well. And I thought that was incredibly enticing. And they were going to allow me to cover everything domestically and internationally as well. So I'm like, let's do it. So I had two bureaus that I moved in and out of, and that was New Orleans. I got an apartment in New Orleans. And then obviously with my house here in the Atlanta suburbs, my wife and they were little girls at the time. This was 2013. I have 4 girls. And so I was shipped out to Beirut, shipped out to Syria, shipped out to London, shipped all over the United States, covering international events, domestic events, Ferguson, Missouri, the riots and the flashpoint that was back in the day, enterprise pieces, you name it. And then they went out of business in 2016, unfortunately, midway through. So you had all these people from the networks that joined thinking, okay, this is going to be fairly long term, and it was not. So then I embarked on a very long freelance career where I did stuff with Washington Post, CNN, Fox, and the Weather Channel. So I was off air almost for all of those folks. I did producing and photography, did a couple on-air things with CNN, and then did some packaging, meaning some storytelling, long-form pieces, 3 to 5 minutes for Weather Channel during major disasters, whether it be earthquakes, hurricanes, tropical storms, you name it, floods. They gave me a great opportunity. But then Fox Weather came calling, and now here I am, full time again, which I really actually like, especially in this day and age. It's turbulent. Media is turbulent times. Unfortunately, a lot of people are being laid off across the industry, locally and nationally. So, I feel very thankful and proud and honored to be with Fox Weather at this point. And I will say, I believe that we have begun to really find our footing in the weather community at this point. I feel very confident that we are really pushing forward and giving some of the best information, the best visuals, and most timely news globally as far as weather is on a big scale, from a corporate scale, certainly.
Yeah, continue to expand on that for a moment, Robert, because the network really is maturing and is extremely fun to watch.
Well,
the
yeah.
personalities, the graphics, there's a lot of sizzle there.
There is, but I will say this: the evolution of that has been, a really strong process with our executives, our middle management, and then our OCMs, our on-camera meteorologists, who have all worked together, and then of course our weather presentation, which is significantly smart individuals, mathematicians, meteorologists, people like Greg Diamond, who was at Weather Channel. Many other names that I could put out there, but these are people that have worked really hard on creating new models that go directly to our stream and all of our social media stuff that not only makes sense for the average viewer to help save their lives and give them timely information, but also encompasses what the scientific world is looking for, and that's a little bit more depth, a little bit more bread and butter. So they're always coming up with new ways to do that. And then of course, yeah, you look at the screen and you've got a beautiful studio. Well, we have several studios. You've got huge wall boards with video and graphics and very interactive meteorologists that are quite literally running their forecast with their hands as they're looking into the camera and listening to the producers in the control room and during breaking news. And so it's very immersive and dynamic in the studio as far as our OCMs. Steve Bender, Ian Oliver, people like that. Ari Sarsalari, who was at night. These are really strong Mets and scientists that know what they're talking about, and it's incredible. And then of course you have guys like me. I'm not a meteorologist. I'm not a mathematician. What I am, is a reporter with photography, producing, and writing skills, which is not very common on a high level in this industry. So I bring sort of an immersive look into what's going on in the field, no matter where we are. Thankfully, Melissa was my 59th named storm. That includes, hurricanes, tropical storms, depressions. I think hurricanes, I think I'm sitting somewhere in the maybe mid 30s at this point. And then the rest, TSs or TDs. So, a lot of that, a lot of ground game for tornadoes and severe weather, and then wildfires too. A lot of action, that I've covered. Did recently the LA, Palisades fire, horrible stuff. So yeah, our progression in 4 years has been dynamic and hard fought. Shari Berg is at the head of Fox Weather. She's a great leader. She's very open to innovation. And, her mantra is, look, we're not a huge operation as far as the silos of, and I hate that word, but I'll use it, but all the different groups within the Fox media world. Fox Weather, we're not loaded with hundreds of employees. We're very scrappy, and that makes us very innovative and hungry. And I believe that is the secret to our success when we have, Shari at the helm and Brianna Coviala, who is vice president and running editorial, and then a strong desk, and just a lot of young people that are really smart mathematicians and also know TV as well. And they know social media and streaming, and social media being so important to the success of not only our product and getting information out, life-saving information, but before, during, and after the aftermath. Social media is so key for people to see what is happening, and that is the world we live in, right? I mean, I've got 3 teenage daughters, and they rely on this right here. They are not tuning into a television like you and I all grew up on. They are getting their news from TikTok, Instagram, and frankly, not even X, formerly Twitter, and certainly not Facebook. But our numbers on Facebook and X are pretty big. But I'd like to see more of the youth go to that. But that's the world we're in right now, and that's really what Fox Weather is focused on. And you might see us perhaps start to do more global weather stories because, as I mentioned earlier, that YouTube stream, you can get anywhere in the world and watch our live broadcast. And that's pretty darn amazing. And it's free. So how can you beat that? So if you're in London, Paris, Morocco, wherever you are in the world, the Antarctic, if you have Wi-Fi, you can watch Fox Weather. Pretty amazing.
Well, Robert, that was important in Hurricane Melissa, as you alluded to earlier. And I thought that because it is so easy to access what you do, in so many ways. And you make it clear, via the app, just open your web browser. Now you say you can access it via YouTube. That is the ultimate, level playing field there.
Yeah.
But your coverage from Melissa was compelling and frightening, all at the same time, and was fairly exclusive. There weren't many people coming from there,
Yeah.
and I was extremely pleased, to be able to rely on your coverage, during that event. So talk about, where you set up and how it evolved, and the decision making process to go, because it probably was a very complex one, I would imagine.
I would call it perhaps one of the most complex hurricane logistical assignments I've ever been on. And I was in Katrina and went from the Panhandle of Florida across Mississippi and then into the New Orleans after the levees broke. And I thought that was intense, which it was. That's probably the most intense as far as logistics goes still to this day. But I will say, I'll just kind of start from the beginning of Hurricane Melissa. We had a very interesting hurricane season. We had some really huge monsters out there that caused coastal erosion up the U.S., that brushed past the Virgin Islands and those areas. I was in St. John, St. Thomas for Aaron as it turned into a monster Cat 5. And so there have been impacts by this hurricane season, but to the average, viewer, I think a lot of people thought, well, Florida didn't get hit like it has in the past few years. This is a dud of a year. Well, no, not at all. And then, of course, this begins to formulate, in the Atlantic, and that is Hurricane Melissa. And, we had discussions and we're like, well, okay, they called me, the desk called me, Robert, you covered Hurricane Barrow up in to the west of Montego last year. What do you think? What are the logistics? What do you think about you heading down there with a team? And, what's your thoughts about safety? And I'm like, well, you know, um, we've got a lot to talk about. First of all, let's see where this is going to go. Let's wait 2 days. Sure enough, we started to see Melissa. The models, at least, predict that it was going to, increase significantly. And of course, we initially thought, okay, the center of this is going to be, just to the west of Kingston. So Kingston's the spot, right? 1 million people, population zone, surrounded by mountains and then the bay and then the Caribbean Sea. And so you're going to have a ton of runoff mountain, from this predicted 2 to 4 feet of rain, mudslides, rock slides. So, okay. So I said, all right, well, let's assemble the team. Jared Maloney, meteorologist, field producer, mathematician, kid graduated from University of Miami 3 years ago. He has now done 7 hurricanes with me. And he is unbelievably brilliant. And I thank every time I'm out with him that he's on my side with me, giving me the knowledge and sort of the science behind this. So he agreed. He said, all right, let's go to Kingston. We put a team together. Photographer, ironically, that they sent from Washington, D.C., had never covered a hurricane. So, and imagine going into Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica and never covering a hurricane. So there was some coaching that I had to do with Pete Stoltz when we got there. A lot of questions he had about how to keep his gear safe and how whether I was going to keep him safe. He was concerned of that, and I'm always doing that as a team lead out there. That's the goal. So we land in Kingston. First order of operation is we need a generator and not a gas generator. We need a 3,000-watt Chinese-made battery-powered generator that's going to get us through all of this for multiple days ahead. If indeed the forecast path continues and the catastrophic aftermath is what we think it's going to be. So sure enough, I went to 5, 6 different places, finally got that, that generator, and we were golden. We had a 2-man security detail out of Jamaica, incredible guys. We all became the tightest group after we were done with this coverage because of what we went through and what I'll explain in a second. But so we arrived on Friday, I believe 22nd into Kingston. We do lead up stories. We're talking to people on the ground in Kingston, trying to get the feel as to whether people understand what potentially could occur. Looking at sandbagging efforts, talking to government officials, the Minister of Labor and Social Security, the Prime Minister, you name it, anybody what we could talk to find out how Jamaica was preparing, and then aid groups like GEM. We were talking to them live and doing stories on all that. And then on Monday morning, we woke up and we're live on all the Fox platforms from Kingston. You know, Fox Weather, Fox Business, Fox News, Live Now, all the locals, you name it. And Jared's looking at the forecast and he's going, Kingston's not going to happen. And I'm like, okay. All right. So we start going over the models. And, you know, he's like, this is going to continue to trek, you know, on this to the south of us, obviously, and more west. And I believe that a landfall is going to happen somewhere in the center south or even more to the west. So I said to him, I go, okay, well, here's the thing. We're not doing 185-mile-an-hour winds on a landfall. It's not happening. It's not happening in the United States. It's not happening in Jamaica. That was my call. I don't trust that. I don't want myself injured. I don't want the team injured. And frankly, you know, 185-mile-an-hour winds, and as we now know, we had a 252-mile-an-hour gust, can take apart any structure imaginable and take the bark off trees. And imagine what it can do to a human being, right? And exposed in the elements, who's trying to capture all of this and document it, because that's our job. So I said to Jared, I go, where can we go where you believe that we can be at least in a semi-safe zone and maybe handle 120-mile-an-hour winds like we've done so many times in the past? So he picked out St. Anne Parish, which is directly in north central, about 50 miles to the north of Kingston on the highway. There's a 4-lane highway. Looks like something in the United States. It cuts right up the center, and that is really the heartbeat of the island for, you know, trucks and convoys on the aid and everything going on right now. So we went right up there. No hotels, by the way. Everybody was shutting down or not taking reservations. Remember, Montego Bay had about 25,000 tourists that could not get out, stranded in those hotels. So we got a Airbnb. Owner of the Airbnb happens to be Jamaican, but also lives up here in Atlanta. Somehow we got her on the phone, explained who we were, what we were doing. And I said, look, we just need a place to sleep tonight. This is Monday night, the day before the impact. Okay. So she's like, okay, fine. You know, we went through the process. We rented the home. We get in. The home is very well built structure, you know, cinder blocks with, you know, modern amenities on the exterior, modern amenities on the interior. What we noticed immediately was, first of all, nothing was taped up because she wasn't there. All right. So the windows weren't taped up. Nothing was prepared, so to speak, for a hurricane. So we did have some tape. We taped as many windows as we could, but there was a lot of sliding glass doors in this structure and a pool out back, you know, 3 floors actually to the structure. So immediately, you know, kind of red flag a little bit. But on top of that, we had a garage that we knew that we could stick our guys, like my photographer Pete and my security team, and they could be tucked deep into the garage with the camera and have a Starlink attached to the live view, which is a tethered Wi-Fi technology. And then that's how we would get our signal out. So without the Starlink, goodbye, we're done. We're not broadcasting. So we set all that up on Monday night, wake up, start to do live shots at 6 a.m. on Tuesday. And, you know, progressively things picked up as far as the winds and the rain. But my guys are tucked into the garage, gear is safe, they're good. I would go out for the live shot, you know, do that. Landfall occurs in Black River, 185 miles an hour winds. And now we know, as of last week, 252-mile-an-hour gusts. Just how do you wrap your head around that? But here's what happened. As Jared, my brilliant producer and meteorologist, said to me an hour before things got hairy, he goes, I think I've made the wrong assessment, Robert. I don't even think we're going to get 100-mile-an-hour winds here. I think we should have continued to go west closer to Montego. And I go, it's okay, Jared. We're in a safe spot. We made our best guesstimate. We're not in Kingston. At least we're close to where there's going to be impacts the next, when sun rises, we'll be able to get into Montego. And then all of a sudden, I'm standing there live, and as it's happening, I hear windows blow, like, and that's above on our house. And you could clearly hear it on the microphone, and you could feel the winds kicking up and the whooshing, moving through this area about a quarter mile up a hill from the Caribbean Sea. Remember, in the north central area. Get done with the live shot. We walk in, we don't even assess what's going on upstairs yet because we have another live shot coming up. But I said to Jared, I go, what's going on, man? And he's like, you're not going to believe this, but the storm is wobbling toward us it's heading east. So the storm hits the coastline near Montego, okay, but actually more to the east. So that eastern side, the brutal side, as we all know. But then it decides to side shuffle all the way on the northern end of the coast into St. Anne Parish. And that is when the sun was down. And I said to the team, I go, I actually, guys, we got to call New York right now on the Starlink Wi-Fi calling. I cannot be live in this because all I heard was debris. And we knew at that point that the winds were well over 120 miles an hour. And then eventually we found out we hit 143 mile an hour wind gusts. And I said, I'm shutting down live shots. We're not doing this. I'm not standing out there. It's dark. I'm going to get hit, even though I got helmet, goggles, protective gloves, you name it, just not safe. So we'll document it and then we'll send it in instead of having me, get killed on a live stream. Can you imagine? I mean, the network would be done if that happened, and we would look like, irresponsible fools. So I called it, and then we went in and started assessing the house. Remember, it's pitch black. And all this video, by the way, for anyone watching, is accessible on social media and the Fox Weather app. You can see it. We did a tour of the house. Blown out windows, blown out doors, wind whipping through upstairs and all across, blown out doors on the bottom floor. And in all my years out in the trenches, listening to these winds come through, I just remember even Hurricane Laura in St. Charles, how intense that was in 2020, or no, was it 20? Yeah, it was 20. I don't think I have ever heard this audio or sound pierce my ears like I did with Hurricane Melissa. And all I can describe it as is if you had a Lamborghini and a Ferrari next to each other, and they were both going as fast as they possibly can, and then all of a sudden in the distance, one of them crashed. That's what it sounded like. Never heard anything like that. The ears were popping, the pressure. I mean, we were in it. We were in the eye wall. And then the backside. Then the backside, as it made that shuffle on the north end, and it went finally up into the Caribbean Sea and made its way toward Cuba. That backside went all night long. Ended at about 4:30 a.m., I'd say. And then you walk out and you just go, okay, this is what I expected. And then you start moving. That's what we did the next morning with the team on the 2-lane highway, trying to make our way into Montego Bay, through all of those small towns, the small villages that are, so important to the tourism and just decimation, catastrophic scenarios all over, little babies, little kids, elderly, you name it, all just walking aimlessly because they had no home. Unbelievable scenes. I mean, just some things that will never leave me and the team.
So how is the aid process going, Robert? Because your pleas in the hours and days afterwards were extremely heartfelt, and extremely compelling too. How is it going on the island now? Have you been back?
I have. Yeah, I was there last week. And my whole focus was to look at the aid groups, the NGOs, for our viewers that don't know what that means, non-government organizations from around the world. And so I spent time with Medic Corps, went up in choppers as they were delivering food, water, and supplies to communities in the mountain regions that had not received aid yet. And that was about almost 2 weeks after impact. So we were literally flying down into these areas, and I've done stories on this as well. And I'll explain something in a minute about all that. But amazing to see communities where the schools are ripped apart. One place we landed at, a school for children with disabilities. I mean, does it get any more brutal than that? These are people that, little boys and girls that needed water and food and love, and and it was just pure fear that was going on. On top of that, you have the World Central Kitchen. Chef Jose Andres was an amazing person. Literally took over the Montego Bay Convention Center and have made, I believe now at this point, over 1 million meals and delivered them on the ground and in the air across central to western and south and the northern end of Jamaica. Spent time also with Samaritan's Purse. They built a MASH style from the old TV show, makeshift hospital in Black River, which is really where the storm initially made landfall. They've treated, at least as of last week, it was hundreds of patients. Has to be more now. Phenomenal work. GEM, which is based out of Miami, doing that. All these different NGOs, aid groups, Global Vision from the UK, they're all there on the ground, and they plan on being out there on the ground at least through December. As far as state governments go, I did hear from the United States State Department. They were seeking information on what was happening. They were also watching Fox weather. Again, to your point, I mean, there were, CNN was there, and I know that crew that was there. Kudos to them, but I just don't think that they have the ground experience in these storms to go put together what we did in the coverage. I know BBC showed up, Sky News showed up, all after ironically watching Fox weather over in the UK, and then realizing the gravity of the situation. But the most important thing is that, you've got countries like El Salvador, the United States, the UK, Germany, I believe the French, even the Dutch, and all the Caribbean island nations as well, helping the Jamaican government with the situation that is, billions and billions in dollars in catastrophic damage, and a death count near 50, and it's hard to tell how many injuries because of how remote some of these communities are. But aid, I would say, is going well. Now, the question is, and I'm not pointing fingers, but having been on the ground for enough of these and knowing that even in the United States, the failures are massive. They are massive in the aftermath of these storms. I mean, you look at what happened during Helene. I mean, my goodness, those folks should have been helped a lot quicker than they were. So where does the money go that, the 24 million from the US and other countries that goes into Jamaica, where is that going to go? How is that going to be allocated? Always the question, always the head scratcher. And that's what the general public, the survivors, always want to know. And darn it, they should know. Having said that, the real help right now is from those NGOs and aid groups that are passing out tangible products and services and life-saving food and water. And if anyone's going to give money, like, you're watching this, where do I give money? In the future too, in future disasters, I got to tell you, Medic Corps, Samaritan's Purse, World Central Kitchen, go to places like that and try to get somebody on the phone and be like, is this legit? Is it really going to go? Because yes, it is. It is going to go. But are the governments really going to do their job? Not the big question.
Well, Connor sent me your, several pieces of your work, and one was of the field hospital piece with Samaritan's Purse, and it truly was amazing what they were doing. But they would nobody there would have any medical resources at all.
No,
without them.
No, zero, because the hospital is decimated, the Black River Hospital. I mean, the police force, the parish force, their parishes in Jamaica, just like in Louisiana, those folks trying to work, trying to be first responders, but they've lost everything as well. And so, yeah, the speed that like Samaritan's Purse came in, from North Carolina and then set up this hospital in a matter of 3 days is just like unbelievable. Also, considering the fact the logistics that these foreign aid groups, when they come in, they land in Montego or Kingston, and we have to realize is so they have to get all of this product, this life-saving product, to these communities. Well, you know, having been on the ground and trying to traverse those roadways that were full of rock slides, mudslides, landslides, and in some spots, flooded inundation rain to 5 feet in some of these roads that it was at one point 12, 15 feet. And that's just from the rain off the mountains. I mean, to go 50 miles, you're talking. I mean, I think the second day in the aftermath, to go 50 miles, I believe took us 7.5 hours. And we documented all of that, and we did stories about the drive into Black River and the drive out. And one of them is during the day, and then one of them is at night. And oh my gosh, I mean, driving through those landmines, essentially those debris fields in the nighttime, and through the water, and just hearing the bugs in the distance, those bugs from the Caribbean, those crickets. And then you hear the machetes, just slamming into trees by survivors trying to clear roads, and chainsaws, and frustrations in people's voices. And then you get in a traffic jam and you look out the window and there's a man or woman's eyes, and you can just feel the pain, and you can feel the fear. I mean, this was like something that's never occurred to Jamaica, or frankly many places around the world. And it is such a lesson as to the violence of planet Earth. And I don't mean we humans, I mean the atmosphere that we live under, and that we breathe, and the respect that needs to occur for what does occur in those oceans, and the temperatures rising and the sea level rise, and all of these components that make these storms so accelerated, dynamic, and the hellscape that they create in the aftermath. I mean, this is all about people. All of this is about humanity. Meteorology, although I'm not a meteorologist, but the forecasting, right? Sure. I mean, there's the science, the love of that for scientists and mathematicians. But ultimately, in the forefront, it's about human beings and making sure that people are aware, and that is the goal of our on-camera meteorologists and our behind-the-scenes weather presentation crews and our executives, and certainly what I do in the field. I mean, it was our role in Jamaica, because we were the mouthpiece for the coverage. We became that. We realized that after about a day or so. And we had the forum of Fox, right? So there was going to be many people that were tuning in. It was our job to show what was happening and make sure that I was directly speaking to state governments about aid and how serious this actually is. And so at times, when I was live, there was a couple moments where maybe that was too much. But then I thought about it and I said, no, saying people are going to die is not too much. No, screw that, because that's the damn truth. And that's the mission. That's the goal. There's a lot of agenda journalism out there in today's society, right? We all know that. We see it. We've all been going through it. Well, you know what? My agenda is to make sure that I get proper information out. And it's not my opinion. But when there are people sitting on the side of a road who have lost everything and they can't get access to food and water, yeah, they're going to die if something doesn't happen. So that's the agenda that I speak from, the mountain that I'll die on.
No, I thought your viewpoint was perfect, and
Thanks.
just watching it, I knew that's who you were speaking to, and I think you were breaking through.
Yeah.
You couldn't speak to anyone with a heart that in that coverage and not have it resonate with them, and it was critical, and you went through a lot to get to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. It's stunning to me that there would still be 25,000 tourists on the island. Is
Yeah.
that just because the airlift is not capable of getting them out, or is it just because some people roll the dice and hope that the hurricane doesn't come? What's the deal there? Because I would have been, I would have given anything to, be. Yeah, I've been through hurricanes, but not a 185-mile-per-hour hurricane. And I went through 4 last year, but
Yeah.
I would have been on the first plane out of there
Yeah.
with what you were facing. Um, how come they couldn't get out, or kind of explain that to me? Is it just
Yeah.
not possible?
No, it was possible. Unfortunately, as you said, there was a lot of roll of the dice. I believe on many tourists, thinking they probably thought, well, look, I'm here. This is, we've saved up for this. Well, we're gonna go through it. But the issue, I think, was the fact that if we look at the track of Hurricane Melissa when it was in the southern Caribbean Sea, it was doing loops, and for the average viewer, someone's on their phone and looking at radar, and they're going, it's not even a hurricane, it's not even a tropical storm. And I think that's sort of the mentality that people were thinking. And then, we got on the ground that Friday, 4 days before landfall, before impact. And, I started raising the red flag, like hugely, hugely, hugely. Like, hey, everybody, this is real serious. And I was talking to Jamaicans and they're like, no big deal. We can handle this. It doesn't even look that bad. Trying to explain. What you're not understanding is once it hits those warmer waters, boom, it's going to blow. It's going to blow up. And so the urgency really started, palpable urgency started to be felt late Saturday night. I remember sitting in the hotel and just hearing a flurry of people talking. Oh, I think this is not going to be good, And then Sunday morning, we're live all day again, and then we go out and we start to see people boarding up and a nervous energy. And then Monday morning comes and holy cow, we've got a storm that's really in development. And by that point, any tourist that was lucky enough to get a flight out, well, as those last flights left, did it, but not enough, right? Not enough space. And so there's where you had the logjam of people, unfortunately. And we did not make it into any of those resorts. My focus was, because of the logistics, was the ground game outside of the resorts, the Jamaicans and everything that we could capture. I wanted to get it into one of those resorts, but to be honest with you, that's a whole other ball game with a corporate like a Marriott or a Hyatt. I'm sure they would have really pushed back on us trying to move in, but we did hear, from social media that things were getting a little hairy inside those places with rationing of food because there was no electricity, no Starlinks were set up for a couple of days, so there was no cell phone service, and if anybody had cell phone service, it was like a quick one bar and you could get a text message out. Good luck getting a phone call out. That's impossible without Starlink and the Wi-Fi calling, administered on your phone. So I think that was the complication with folks. And of course, the resorts are not open still, and they will not be until after the holidays and perhaps even further February, March. But that is just the absolute key, right, to Jamaica making an economic comeback. Even though Kingston is the capital, located in the south eastern quadrant of the island, that is really a manufacturing city. It's a business place. There's a lot of American companies that build things down there. In fact, I have a neighbor who has a company that they build ovens down in Kingston, like big, like hotel ovens. But where, Jamaica survives is that corridor from Negril over to Montego into Ocho Rios, those pockets. And that's where the lifeline needs to come back, ASAP. And frankly, that's where the Jamaican government at this point really should be focusing their monies that they're getting to try and help and build those relationships with the big corporations that run those resorts. Like, I know Sandals has been heavily involved with Medicore and providing aid and a hangar, their air hangar for Medicore to come in with their helicopters and planes to bring goods. So, this is all about, building relationships very, very quickly and not having red tape at this point, because with red tape and bureaucracy, people die and people get closed off and they have breakdowns physically and mentally. We saw it during Helene, and that cannot happen. That can't happen. We're all people. Whatever we got to do to get it done now is the message that I was trying to give, and I hope that the message that the Jamaican governments are working toward. But as we all know, and our viewers know, we live in a very complex world with a lot of people that have urgency that is not put in the right direction, that maybe don't really care. And unfortunately, they need to.
And the Jamaican people are a warm and wonderful group of people,
Incredible.
Robert.
Yeah.
And they really are. And James A., you've got sort of a story about how they're ambassadors in other parts, even of our world, about hurricanes.
Yeah, Robert, you were talking earlier about Southeast Florida, and we have to go back to, gosh, Andrew, I guess, for South Florida to have a hit. But there is some talk that the number of people that have moved to South Florida from the Caribbean islands, Puerto Rico with Maria, now Jamaica with this, and the
Right.
connection back, has actually kept readiness up in the immigrant populations in South Florida because of that connection back home to islands that have had direct experience with hurricanes. And logically, it would be the other way around, but with a kind of a disenfranchised or marginalized population would be at normally a higher risk.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does. I mean, there's a huge Jamaican population in South Florida, in Miami and Orlando, and there's a big Jamaican population here in the Atlanta metro, and obviously, as we know, up in the Northeast in New York, significant. Puerto Rican population as well in Florida, significant, and so, yeah, it is interesting. It's I wonder, to your point, if some of the awareness and the viewers that were brought into the Jamaican people that they're starting to watch Fox Weather and put it on the stream in gas stations and places that we saw, and just say to us on the street, "Oh, Fox Weather." I wonder if some of that indeed is attributed to friends and family that have moved to the States that maybe perhaps knew about Fox Weather and were tuning in to get their information because maybe they had heard that we were actually sending a crew, meaning myself and team, down there to cover this before, during, and after. I wonder if that spread. I mean, we live in a small world. I mean, as we all know, I mean, we're all just a few degrees of separation from each other, and it's important, and I am very, very glad and so thankful that so many people in Jamaica were tuning into us. I mean, we have people on camera that said to us, if it were not for those warnings by your people in New York and then what you were doing, I'm not sure that I would have taken this at all seriously. I mean, that is, I have to say, in my career, I'm not sure if I've ever heard that many people say that to us, myself and my team on the ground than during Hurricane Melissa. I just I don't think I've ever felt like I've made a difference in that capacity. And it's all due to,
Do you think your messaging was more urgent than the local broadcasters, Robert, that they
well,
were listening to?
I think that's probably accurate. Yes. And I believe that, our messaging, because we were able at Fox Weather to have, brilliant people like Brian Norcross and our other on-camera meteorologists in New York, really breaking down what was going on, and then coming down to us on the ground I believe that, that interaction, that synergy between the science and the reality on the ground helped Jamaicans realize, oh my goodness, okay, this is a way bigger deal than we ever thought. And we're used to storms, but not like this. I mean, no one is. I mean, if a 252-mile-an-hour recorded wind gust hit anywhere in the United States, my Lord. I mean, we know that happens up in the atmosphere, but to have it on the ground, oh my, I mean, it's just mind-boggling, to even consider that. I mean, we saw, in Naples and Fort Myers Beach 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, Hurricane Ian, and then Helene and Milton last year, and Charlie in 2004, and all those historic storms, 24, 25. I mean, maybe I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but 252-mile-an-hour wind gusts on the measured ground? No. I mean that's 100 meters up in the air or more. And by the way, the hurricane hunters had to abort what several of their missions into Hurricane Melissa, as they were trying to scientifically read everything that was happening and dropping their capsules down. I mean, they were hitting spots where they're goodbye if they kept going. I mean, that's how intense the storm was. And you know it because not just the structures that look like EF5 tornado damage, but the mountainsides have no vegetation. Zero. There's nothing on those trees. As before, there were tropical rainforests, essentially. And to look at trees with no bark, I mean, that is just, can you even fathom what it would take for a natural force to rip the bark off a tree, and not just part of the bark, 360 around a tree? Just incomprehensible, truly.
Robert, so did you ever go fly with the Hurricane Hunters at the
Yes.
P3 or the WCN30s? And tell us about your experience.
Yes, I did C-130 at a significant mission, 2004 Hurricane Charlie. Went into the eye wall, broke through the eye wall with those incredible teams. We flew out of Biloxi. We were somewhere near Cuba or over Cuba when it strengthened from a Cat 2 to a Cat 4. Yes, Cat 4, exactly. So we all lost our cookies because the plane just went da, 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 and just dropped. And everybody had a moment. There was either vomiting or vertigo, or a mixture of both. I did not have the vomiting. I had the vertigo, and just pure nausea. And we lost contact with operations in Biloxi and everywhere else. And that night, when we got back, the pilots went on Nightline with Ted Koppel and described what they went through. So that is my one and only mission in with the Hurricane Hunters. I'd like to do it again. The problem with me is that, whoever I'm working for, and obviously with Fox Weather, and hope I'm with Fox Weather for, the rest of my career. But they always want me, in the trenches and immediately, and not to take time. Because for anyone watching, you go up with the Hurricane Hunters, many times those missions are 8 to, even as high as 12 hours sometimes. I mean, they're intense. So it takes a lot out of what you're doing.
My record's 13.3. That's a long day.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So, all right, let's go back to James Spann era here. So in 1961, Dan Rather chained himself to a tree on Hurricane Carla.
Yes.
My question to you is, do you see people that would make Kim Cloco, McLean go nuts with stupidity, these hurricane chasers? What do you have to tell us about the morons who do stupid things? Dan Rather's lucky to be alive. He chained himself to a tree.
Yeah.
What have you seen?
I know. Dan, I mean, Dan is attributed in many ways to the beginning of, hurricane coverage on television. I mean, but yeah, no, that's insane. I would like to know what the wind speeds were while he was tied to the tree, and then that would make me understand more fully whether he was just out of his mind or legitimate or somewhere in between. But yeah, there is a fine line between putting yourself into a hurricane scenario, dangerous hurricane scenario, and documenting it for the reasons of trying to make public officials and first responders aware of what the intensity is so that when they're able to move, they understand perhaps what they're going to see. And that is the reason I will stand in those winds. But of course, head on a swivel, constantly, understanding about power lines and debris and anything like that. And by the way, debris meaning it's not just the roof. A leaf and a particle of a leaf that is this big flying at 100 miles an hour that hits the flesh can tear you open and bleed. Thus, I wear a helmet, I wear glasses, I wear gloves with steel brass knuckles essentially on it, just in case something comes at me and I got to do one of these. And if it gets like that, then I'm getting out. And that's what we did during Hurricane Melissa. When stuff started to really unravel, that's when I was like, I'm calling it. Everybody's gonna have to be okay with that in New York, and we will file video in, but I'm not standing on that. Now, another reason why, Jared Maloney, who I've talked about, meteorologist and producer, why we also made the decision to not go to Black River, because I knew that, that central region or west and the south was going to take the significant winds, and it is just not worth it. Because my job during this is to get critical information and visuals out. And if I'm injured or all of our equipment's gone, or God forbid, a car is taken away by storm surge, then what are we worth? Why are we there? Are we there for showbiz? Right? That's a question. That's a question that goes all around this world of storm chasers and frankly, folks that are on television. Why are you in it? Well, we're all in it. Any of us that go into those situations, yeah, clearly we've got a bit of a screw loose. We've got adrenaline problems. We've got adventure issues. We've got all these things. Let's be honest. Having said that, if we're going to do the proper thing, the mission is, again, the information, the visuals for first responders, elected officials, and survivors. Okay. And the documentation. It's history, right? Anything that comes in and ruins a region, territory, community is historical. Doesn't matter whether it is a tropical storm, Cat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or the tornadoes. It doesn't matter. They're all dangerous as hell. A lot of the storm chasers out there, yeah, they see this on social media and they say, oh man, that, maybe I should go do that. Well, it's just, the problem is about every 10 years, you get a group of storm chasers that lose their life. 2017 is a year that was horrible for that during a tornadic outbreak. And it can easily happen in hurricanes as well. And if you truly are going to try and put yourself in a situation where you're going to try to fight the dragon, the violence of something that ferocious, then you're making a very bad choice when you could at least sit on the fringes, a survivable fringe, and get that story out. And then like a member of the military, when the fire is done, you move the troops over the hill and into the region that just got ambushed. That's my mentality. It's very operational, very logistical, very military-esque, and there is a mission involved, and it is very serious. I could not live with myself if I got one of my brothers or sisters hurt out there in the field. I couldn't do it. I'd have to quit and go do something else, I think.
And these disaster zones are no joke. And I honestly am so impressed by how much you've absorbed of this condition across all of humanity. I want to take a deep cut back in the tracks that are your career here. You mentioned going through a lot of different things. And earlier in your career. These weren't meteorological hazards, but more geological. You experienced some of the most lethal hazards, earthborne hazards,
Yeah.
especially geologic ones, with the Kashmir earthquake and
Yeah.
with the Indonesia earthquake and tsunami.
Mhm.
And you talked about being there to do, deep reporting on these things. What can you share about what you saw there? And, there's so many aspects to this. You've seen disasters in so many different kinds of places. How is it different in a mass casualty zone of that magnitude and in places that are developed, in different ways than we're
Yeah.
developed here and have different kinds of support systems and, you know, uh, the scale of those disasters was just so wide.
Yeah.
And what does that teach you about now? What do you carry forward from that to
Well,
talk
yeah.
about life and death? And, you're taking it very seriously, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, every part of the world is different as far as how a documentarian or a journalist is perceived when we come in. It's everybody has a different view, different suspicions about what our motives are. And so the assimilation is again about relationship building. I mean, you look at, for example, in Pakistan, landing in Islamabad and having to make our way up into Kashmir, near the Afghani border. And by the way, this is 2005 when the hunt for bin Laden was as fierce as imaginable. And there were warlords all over those roadways that are, um, some of them no wider than my wingspan here. And you're in the back of an old pickup and, you're driving past, armed men with AKs, and there's death on the side, and there's Pakistani helicopters up above, and some of the highest mountains in the world. And, to your left, 300 yards is Afghanistan. And then you get to where there are piles of dead people, piles. And what do they do with the piles of dead people in some cultures? Well, they start burning them. And so just piles of people being torched. And the men that were torching them were, sipping on alcohol and crying. And there's the language barrier and chaos all around you and tremors, still significant tremors going on. And how do you get back to Islamabad, to the Marriott, the only place that, a Western can stay at, which, by the way, 2 years after that was blown to bits by a terrorist organization with a bunch of federal officials in there who were still hunting Osama bin Laden. So that hotel's gone. So there was a lot of fear in those situations, but the goal, again, the mission is to show the faces so that the world can understand what they're going through, see the eyes, hear the voices, see the destruction around, put that together, whether it be in a polished television network package or raw, which is now a very important thing. And I want to talk about that in a second. I mean, same thing with Indonesia and Sri Lanka. Again, my God, I mean, just piles of bodies being burned, trains overturned, the odors, the just terror on people's faces. And I know for me, I never forget like the children. I mean, really, like that's the thing, because I always harken back to like, okay, what would my little, Chicago little boy body and mind be thinking if this just happened to me at 3, 4, 5, 6 years old? How would I handle that? What would I do? And so I think it's very important for, aid groups, government officials, first responders, reporters like myself to always show a deep empathy to the children. And it doesn't mean you need to talk to them. It just means, maybe you really lock eyes with them, and, and you say something like, if they speak English, well, I have a daughter your age, or you just try to make them feel like someone cares at the moment, because their parents, if they're with them, or going through incredible trauma, mental and sometimes physical. So there's this sort of aura that you need to build around yourself when reporting in these situations, and you cannot, from at least the way I approach it, I don't really think much about myself, in a sense, like I don't really eat. I often don't drink. I forget to. I'm very much concerned about making sure that I'm capturing every moment possible to make everyone who is going to view what we're doing understand just how serious it is. And then when I can take a breath, then yes, I will grab something to eat and grill a bar or whatever. I don't give a crap. I really don't, until it's done. And that's what I tell the team too. I mean, there's an end to this for us. Eventually, there is an end, even if we go back. But there's never an end for anyone that has been impacted by the violence of these storms, earthquakes, wildfires, or any other natural disaster that happen around the globe. There's never an end for them, because it will never leave them. It will always stay right here, whether it be, a death, an injury, an economic impact, or just the sights and sounds that, we human beings have, rushing through our souls after a traumatic event. It's difficult. And one thing I'm doing right now, that's unconventional, but I feel that it's necessary because Jamaica had such an impact on me personally, is that each day, and I started this past Friday, I'm doing what's called Robert Ray Raw, and it is pretty much all these clips, whether they're live interviews or just walking through things or just moments of raw video. It's not edited. So like if my camera, I'm shooting with the iPhone and the camera goes down, or I'm like, God damn, or like something, it's there. And it's chronological per each day of coverage. And it started with the day of impact, and then it's moved on to the first day of the aftermath, and that's in 3 parts. That's part 2, part 3, part 4, because the day was so long. We started at 5:30 in the morning and ended at 11 o'clock at night. So it's in 3 separate parts, and so it's short form documentary, raw, immersive, no editing. You can feel exactly what we were feeling, or at least as close as possible. And I think it's giving anyone who's watching this a real idea of the hellscape that Jamaicans and others were going through. And then eventually I'll be showing the aid groups as the series progresses on each day, and what they're doing, and show the greatness of the NGOs, and the love and the kindness of how everybody is working together. So I mean, I'm putting it on my social media, on my X, on my Instagram. I have a private Facebook. I'm putting it on there, and I'm also putting it on my LinkedIn. So anybody wants to see it, that's where you can catch it. And then eventually I'm going to compile all of them when they're done, and then throw it up on YouTube. I'm hoping to have Fox Weather do that. We've just, I took this upon myself to create the raw aspect, because I just feel like it's really important to have that kind of transparency as well in something as significant as this.
Robert, I appreciate you. This can't be easy to talk about that. And you've told us that you're a family man. You've got daughters.
Yeah.
Those are discussions at the family level you have to have. And I encourage, you have not mentioned it, Robert, but I want to get a mention in for your colleague, Benjamin Hall at Fox News.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And what he had to go through when he lost members of his crew.
Yeah.
And was severely injured in that blast. But Robert, in a way, and by the way, Benjamin has a great book. If you haven't seen it, we have to read that to understand with his family. But is that a family discussion, Robert, that you have a long history with this?
Yeah.
And you're not going somewhere necessarily where the sun's out and people are happy.
No.
And especially, I think, in 2025, when I don't think that press is regarded like it was a number of years ago. There are people there that are not going to like you.
Absolutely.
And so I guess that's what I wanted to bring up. I just appreciate you talking about it. You got into that discussion with John and with Kim and with all of us, and I just appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone out there is watching can understand how, weather related or not, however it's related, that there are people out there trying to tell us what's going on in the world that are putting their lives at risk every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we look at our first responders, you know, all over the world.
True.
And soldiers, men and women. I mean, you know, these are people that don't get big paychecks, right?
Yeah.
And they have immeasurable honor and duty and mission and respect for our fellow humans, and they would do anything. And you know, they're the inspiration. You know, you see those kind of people in these scenarios, whether it be a conflict, hostile environment, or a disaster zone. It's just phenomenal to see what people can conjure up that they don't know that they have, and it's perspective that, frankly, so much of our societies, not just here in America, but so much across the globe, need more than ever in today's day and age. People need to understand that there is suffering, and that anything that you can do to help, well, you need to do that. You know, that's the role. And the role of journalism has always been to provide factual information, and timely, as fast as you can do it without, you know, making errors, which happens all the time in this day and age of media and television, and getting the right information out. And, you know, I try to do that by immersing our viewers into what I'm experiencing. And by doing that, you know, you need the proper team. You need a photographer that just fully understands the mission. You need a producer that is in constant communication with our headquarters in New York and say, here's what we're doing. We're moving now. We're moving to this next place because we believe this is the proper deal. So please, you know, work with us. And getting the voices of people, you know, that's just it right there. And again, not making mistakes. I mean, if I don't know the death count, well, then I'm not going to say that. I'm not sure of the death count to wherever you're at. We've heard that it could be at least 10 now. That's from Jamaican officials. Having said that, we've seen officials make mistakes previous around the globe. So that's what we're hearing. So that's not fact at this point, but that's what we're being told. I think transparency and honesty is just absolute key. And again, I go back to into agenda based. I mean, I'm not out there talking, you know, conservative or liberal. I never will. I don't care. That's not what this game is about. When we step onto the field, this is about lives. This is about people. This is about communities. This is about humanity. This is about babies, children, men, women, everyone involved. This is about humanity. This is not about whether or not, you know, you believe in an ideological view on one side of the aisle. It's just not. And frankly, that's my message to American politicians as well in the aftermath of these disasters. Like, enough's enough. I mean, you guys just fiddle around like a bunch of losers. And, you know, we saw that during Helene when we could have come together and we could have made stuff happen immediately. We have the most powerful military in the world. We have men and women that know how to mobilize, get in, and they were ready. They were ready, and they'll tell you that. So, you know, grow up.
Take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. Robert, yeah. August of 22, you found yourself in the middle of a first responder situation. Talk about when that lady drove into the water.
Oh, yeah.
And you became a first responder.
Yeah. So for anyone that saw that, so the people that captured that was the Fox Dallas crew. So I had pulled up, my job that morning was to cover, intense rainfall in Dallas and the possibility of flash flooding. Okay. So I was live. I was solo. I did not have a crew. I was what's called MMJ, multimedia journalist. So I was doing all these shots by myself. So I get into underneath this viaduct where there was water, and I put myself under there because I knew I could protect myself from the rain because I was solo and I wanted to make sure that my equipment was okay. And obviously there was, water that it was sitting underneath on the roadway. And then the Fox crew was like in the distance pulling up, and I saw them. But before, like during that period, as I'm like setting up my tripod and stuff, I heard like a screaming, and it was a woman who drove in into this water underneath the interstate and just began to float. And so just I don't know, just my instinct just kicked in. I just walked out there, and it was right about up to my chest. And I said to her, "Don't open the doors." She was panicking. She's like, "I can't swim. Oh my God, I can't believe I just did this. I drive this way to work every morning. I can't believe I just did this." That's the thing about flash flooding. You don't realize, you're looking down at your phone. Next thing you know, oh my God, you're in 4 feet, 5 feet of water, especially like as the sun is coming up. So, I told her, don't open your doors. We don't want water, start rushing in. Then we're gonna have a serious problem. So the car was floating, and I was trying to push the car as it was floating, up into where like my vehicle was, so I could at least maybe get one wheel up on ground and try to just get it to sit. And then maybe, at that point, maybe the water would be a foot high and she could then open the door and walk out on her own. Well, I did push it. I had some progress, but then I couldn't get it to where I wanted to. And then she was panicking and screaming. I said, "Okay, here's the deal. Hand me your bag or whatever you have." Because I saw a bag there, and I put it on top of the roof, obviously, or you don't want her belongings floating away. And I said, "Just crawl out the window. Do not open this door. Do not." So she's like, "I can't do this." I'm like, "Yes, you can. Yes, you can." Crawled out, grabbed her, and then, at that point, the water was really about only up to here on me, right mid area. And so I just kind of brought her in. She was telling me, I can't swim. And she was panicking. I mean, she wouldn't have needed to swim, but I brought her up there, and everything was okay. So thank God. And then, my colleague Bob Van Dillen, who used to be at CNN Headline News, and then they were, dissipated 3 years ago probably, and he's at Fox Weather now, has his own show from 12 to 3. Great guy. He was covering Hurricane Helene in the Atlanta area, and a very similar situation happened to him. So yeah, I don't know what it is with Fox Weather. Geez, we seem to be putting ourselves in places where we're having to move into different roles. But that's, I mean, that's a testament to the ground truth and what we're doing versus what, maybe some others are doing. We are putting ourselves into these stories and immersing ourselves and giving viewers and first responders and elected officials and the weather community the ground truth. That's what it is. That's the goal.
So Robert, we have to take a break in a second. I have a media question. The future of media. Where's this going? So you will have some events where YouTubers have more audience than me, you, Weather Channel, massive audience.
Yeah.
Everything is shifted. Where are we going to be in 10 years? Will there be a local newscast? Will there be a Fox Weather or Weather Channel? Where are we going?
I think there will be. But here's what I equate this to. Remember 1997 through 99, the dot-com era, right when we were like, what is dot-com? Like, what is this? What's going on out in Silicon Valley? And what are these websites that are coming up like Amazon? And how can I get involved in this? What can I create? How can I innovate? That's where we're at, I believe, with our industry and the sort of merging of traditional broadcast and streaming and social and fast channels and all of this companies together. I do believe that we will have local news. I think it's beyond important. It's not going to look the way it looks right now. It's not. And I also believe that it's a local news is going to be a place where very serious reporters want to be. reporters that believe in their community. I got to tell you, guys, I mean, unfortunately, right now, the television industry, from where I sit, and I've seen it a lot, is full of a lot of people that want to be famous. And I got to tell you, you want to do that? Maybe you should move to West Hollywood and start trying to get a role in a major motion picture. As far as the rest of us reporters, yeah, the smart ones, we're gonna innovate, and we're gonna understand that everything that in 5 years, 10 years is going to be a mixture of what we used to do, what we're doing now, and what is not developed yet. But one important thing for anybody in the biz of storytelling and reporting is you better make sure that you're not going into this to put a bunch of makeup on your face and powder yourself and think that you're going to have a crew with you that's going to get you craft catering on an assignment, because you better learn how to shoot. You certainly better learn how to write, because that is the key to all this. Not using Chat GPT for everything. Use your own original mind and language skills, your own lexicon, and understand what team means, and innovation. Innovation is priority right now, but in order to innovate, you must understand how to do multiple roles. And if you do not understand that, you need to go into a different business. And we welcome you going into a different business.
I tell kids all the time, listen, if you want to see yourself and be a big deal, be a social media influencer. Yeah. Go for it. I will help you do that. But don't do television weather or communication and weather, because it's not about you. It's about the people that we serve, and that's it. You have to have a servant's heart to do this properly. And it just seems like I see so many young people, it's all about me. But having said all that, before we go into a rant here, we have to take a break. Jen is off this week, but we do have Tony Rice and his astronomy report. We're going to come back with email picks of the week, and I bet you Robert's got a good one, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
On the last WeatherBrains, I shared a bit about NASA's Escape and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamics Explorer mission, or ESCAPADE. That launch was actually delayed twice. Like many other launches, the cause was weather, including the very weather that the mission is designed to study, space weather. The launch team went ahead with an attempt on November 9th, despite the launch weather forecast, which only put chances of favorable conditions at 65%. But that's what you've got to do in Central Florida, where perfect weather is rare. Ultimately, a decision was made to scrub the mission with just 4 minutes and 33 seconds on the clock, as cumulonimbus clouds and the lightning risks they bring with them moved into the area. The next attempt was on November 12th, with near-perfect weather forecasted. But another decision to scrub was made nearly 5 hours before planned liftoff. This time because of solar storms. While the rocket was being prepped for another attempt, multiple coronal mass ejections had been observed on the sun, and that led NOAA to issue a G4 severe geomagnetic storm watch. So why can't a spacecraft designed to study solar weather launch into solar weather? Well, the answer lies in the critical first hours of a mission's life after it leaves the ground. One of the final checklist items for any launch, whether it's a probe like ESCAPADE or it's carrying astronauts, is when the vehicle disconnects from shore power and begins relying on internal batteries. The clock starts ticking then. You got to get into orbit and get those solar panels deployed, or you'll run out of juice. Now, an incredible amount of automation goes into launching a rocket, but they are still closely monitored, and items on the commissioning checklist that occur over the next several hours, days, and sometimes weeks are often triggered from the ground. The risk was just too high that the incoming solar storm might disrupt those communications, or maybe damage delicate one-time use systems that do things like deploy the solar panels. Ultimately, though, the New Glenn rocket lifted off the next day, just before 4 p.m., putting ESCAPADE on its way to study space weather at Mars. And it deposited that rocket back on a barge off the Florida coast, making Blue Origin the second company to return a rocket for reuse. As your astronomy outlook, follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
Well, Jim's not here, but by golly, John Gordon is here. Just maybe he's got some email for us this week.
Okay, so thanks to the WeatherBrains listeners. who've sent us a bunch of notes. So we got Johnny Brink, and James knows this. I'm sure he knows the whole thing, but they have added a new tornado to April of 2011. You want to say anything real quick, James?
Right. And this was not, John, the generational outbreak of April 27th. This was what we called the forgotten outbreak on April 15th. Before the generational outbreak, that's the day we had 62 tornadoes, 252 fatalities in one day. We had, Bill Murray, 45 tornadoes on April 15th. And people forgot about it because of what happened a couple of weeks later. But it's interesting to note that here we are 14 years later. The Weather Service in Birmingham got some information. They went down, they identified a track, and they added that. So one more tornado has been added to the April 15th forgotten outbreak of 2011.
So I want to compliment him too, because there was a few weeks ago we talked about Enderlin, North Dakota, right? And we thought about Pandora's box. And what I said was, if something's wrong, do the research and fix it. Yeah. That's what they did. It's what they did. Okay. The one email that I really liked comes from Matthew Graves. And the title alone was worthy of James Spann and James Iladot, who loves humor, was called The Shamnados. The Shamnados. There's something for you, Robert. Let's go research that. But anyway, so the Shamnados email talked about how frustrated some people are that some TV Mets, nobody on this panel, but some TV Mets who were criticizing the Weather Service over not having tornado warnings out because of Shamnados. And he goes on to talk about what it is side lobing, which we should probably do a show on radar signatures one time. And just, you guys like that? Thumbs up.
I've got a whole PowerPoint on those, I think.
Well, maybe you should be the guest.
There you go.
So anyway, you want to say, James Iladot, why don't you give us your best pitch on what side lobing is?
Okay, not that we have a whole lot of time, but in any parabolic radar dish, which is what 98% of our weather radars are, a little extra radar energy is leaked out away from the main beam. That, if reflectivity is strong enough, can be enough to radiate a return back and overwhelm the velocity signature from the main beam when you're looking at some low-level echo. So oftentimes you're getting the overhang in a supercell in those winds that are 15, 16,000 feet up. So you get false rotation looking things. And to boot, you also get a lot of low CC in that too. So people not only see velocity, but then they think there's low CC. It's got to be debris when it's not either.
Right. Yeah.
And it's one other point. Yeah, it doesn't mean there's not a tornado, but it does diagnose a supercell really well.
Yeah, it does. There's no question, but you have to compare your velocity. You do a very quick comparison. If it doesn't line up, probably not legit.
Tilt up. If there's a big old hot reflectivity.
That's right. So that was
and
a
spectrum
really good
width is
email.
also useful.
And I did not know about Shamnados. That's my new term for so anyway, some good articles. So if you have a question for WeatherBrains, we want to hear from you. So does Robert Ray. We want to hear questions from around the world. So if you've got a question, you send them to email at weatherbrains.com, emails at weatherbrains. We want to hear from you and put you on the air. And James Iladot will give you a radar lesson.
Indeed. Only on this show do you get side lobe radar lessons. Email at weatherbrains.com. By the way, so far, Shamnado is a good potential show title. I've also got Vertigo and Vomiting. That's another good show title. We've got several possibilities here, but we're going to morph into Picks of the Week. This is where we're going to go around the horn and share something that is weather-related. And before we do that, real quick, Troy, there was a tornado near Houston. Do you know anything about that? Just a quick weather roundup type thing?
This
looked like it was northwest of Houston.
Yeah, it was out around spring and went across 45 up north. And I just saw a storm report that came out of Houston while we've been on the air that came up on the radar screen that I think they've confirmed one area where it was on the ground, but I have a feeling in looking at a lot of stuff that it may have been aloft during a lot of that time when the warnings were out. It passed, for most people know where this is, but Intercontinental Airport, it passed south of that, but I think it was a funnel cloud at that point, and then it emerged up around Spring, which is kind of east northeast of Intercontinental Airport. They're getting a second band of thunderstorms over there now, but that's moving out. Most of the severe stuff extends from Lufkin back up to east of Shreveport, where we've got severe thunderstorm warning and flash flood warnings up there as well on this Monday night. But yeah, that's what I've kind of been watching over the last couple of hours. James?
And Troy, by the way, Tim Marshall was in the airport terminal at Intercontinental and saw it.
Oh, really? Okay.
He took a picture of it. He took a picture of it.
Really?
Of course he did. Surprised he didn't run after
funnel
it.
That was Tim's picture of funnel?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So you got all these chasers out there, and the big brouhaha on the tweeter. It's people running red lights, and they're all fighting and fussing and in a full-blown brawl. But the coolest thing I saw was Tim Marshall. The Tim Marshall was at IAH waiting to fly to Dallas, and he just saw it out the window, and he took a picture of it. I mean, how cool is that?
Yep.
Yeah. So again, what you're seeing there for those watching, that's the batch of storms coming into Louisiana and down into southeastern Texas. But anyway, so let's do picks of the week. This is where everybody on the show, and Robert, we're going to stall and give you a little time to think about it, but this is going to be something that's weather related. It can be a website, app, hardware, software, anything remotely related to weather. So I guess really quickly, I will start. John Lewis, who is a retired National Weather Service meteorologist, he wrote a piece called "The Truth About Late Night Flash Flood Warnings and Risk: The Opinion of a Veteran National Weather Service Forecaster." And it goes back to the July 4th disaster in Texas, and just another interesting read on that. We've had so many comments, and we've done a show on it. But anyway, I thought it was well written. So again, that's a Substack piece, "The Truth About Late Night Flash Flood Warnings and Risk." So let's go to Kim. Kim, what's your pick of the week, please, ma'am?
Yeah, my pick of the week is a news article. We've been circulating it internally in our WeatherBrains crew. I thought that this was just a crazy story. There was a car filled with teenagers that unfortunately launched off of a highway and crashed into a forecast office. And we're still learning more about what has gone on at that office, but it was overnight. It was like 2 a.m. It was the Sioux Falls forecast office, I believe, just off of the airport grounds. And there was one person on shift, that poor person. But they were not injured. They were on the other side of the forecast office. And I think we've heard of at least one fatality with this, and the other 3 people in the car were seriously injured. So just hearts go out to our folks who work in these forecast offices all across the country that are sometimes in far-flung places, sometimes quite isolated. And it can, I mean, if you're alone at 2 a.m, can you even imagine having a crash like that? And I mean, what would you do? And so this has to be jarring to a lot of our folks, sending a lot of love to everybody today who's reckoning with a little piece of their humanity.
Yeah, that was a terrifying story. Goodness gracious. I've not heard of that until we discussed it in the chat today. All right, James Adelite, he's got to get set for the 9 o'clock news. So James, what's your pick of the week?
Mine is a video from a little drill bit tornado in Thailand. And it was, the tweet says Ban Khao Rano district in Songkhla province. And I'm sure I nailed all of those names with the skill of James Spann reciting Alabama paths.
It sounded like you got it right. As far as we're concerned. All right, and again, all of these picks will be up on the website weatherbrains.com. Troy Kimmel, what's your pick of the week?
There will not be one from Troy Kimmel because he's calling for the foghorn. I'm giving my time to Robert tonight. So got it.
Oh
wow!
Yeah, am I next? Oh boy! I tell you what. You know, I like to keep the there's 2 things going on right now. You know, we've got we've got a bizarre signal out in the Caribbean, right? Does that have a chance of turning into something? Well, I think it's at least worth looking. And I will tell you, this all comes from, again, my colleague Jared Maloney, who's been looking at this very intensely. Will something spin up? I don't, probably nothing intense, but even if something does, how uncommon, right? And because of that, I would like to say that we have a product at Fox Weather called the ROE, which is the risk of weather impact. That's what ROE stands for. And I think as we move and transition out of tropical season, hurricane season, into winter across the U.S. and frankly, as we saw last year, wildfires can erupt anywhere out west, even if it's well, that was human made, unfortunately. But I think the risk of weather impact, the ROE product that Fox Weather has, that looks at how all of this atmospheric insanity will impact your community. I think it's an important thing to keep an eye on. As you tune into Fox Weather, and I'm not trying to shamelessly plug, but I will say I wouldn't be saying this if I wasn't fully confident in our science and the brilliant people that create all these products and will continue to create products down the road. I think it's going to be a little bit of a hell for Thanksgiving travelers in some parts of the country, and that ROE will help people, I think, get through it.
But Robert, thank goodness, at midnight on Sunday night, the hurricane season ends, so nothing can develop after that. So
yeah,
thank goodness. Thank goodness.
That's the signal that we're looking at, right? I mean, you never know. I mean, anything can happen. It's happened in the past, right? We just hope it doesn't. I mean, the waters are too warm up here, but in some spots of the Caribbean, something potentially could flare up. I just hope not.
Robert, the
by the
rule
way,
of
this
thumb
whole
is I'm sorry, James. You want to learn something? When a cold front goes through San Juan, it's over.
Yeah,
exactly.
There you
Stick
go.
a fork
It is
in
the
it.
thing that has
Fork in
always
it.
worked.
It's
Have
done.
we
It's
haven't
done.
seen that yet, have we? No, I didn't think so. Yeah, hopefully that happens sooner, right? No doubt.
All right. So, John Gordon, while you got the mic, let's go. What's your pick of the week?
Yes, sir. John Lewis. That was a great pick on Substack. Everyone should read that. It's excellent. So I have two. One Kim's not going to like. A KLM plane took off out of Newcastle. You should watch this, Robert. They took off out of Newcastle. They're amazed everyone's alive. They took off with winds probably 40 miles an hour crosswinds. It's all over the internet. You watch this video. Everyone in that plane, including the pilots, got new underwear. I'm telling you, it's not good.
There's your show title.
Yeah, that's a show title.
It is not good. I'm telling you. I watched this video over and over. James nailed that right, James? Not good. Not good at all.
When you're a passenger in the plane and you look out your window and see the runway you're going down.
Exactly.
You got a real problem. You got a real problem there. Wow. Jeez. And again, all of these links will be up on weatherbrains.com. Bill Murray, the floor belongs to you. Go.
Yeah, James, I gotta look that up now. I thought you meant Newcastle, Oklahoma. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that video. Yeah, I'm gonna pick some of the coverage that Connor Smith sent me of Robert's post storm coverage and storm coverage, but I'm gonna pick the Samaritan's Purse story because it was really moving. Talking to the doctors and the nurses there in Jamaica after the hurricane at that field hospital. And being a huge fan of the show MASH from the 1970s, I had to say your comment resonated with me, Robert, about that. But those men and women are doing real work there that is amazing because they're saving lives and helping people get through everyday things too. I mean, because somebody's got to take care of the normal stuff too. And that's a great story. So that's going to be my pick of the week, James. And many thanks to John Gordon for his incredible work jumping in here and booking guests right and left. And Kim's got next week's show. That's going to be a fun show. And and I'm looking forward to all of this. I'll be throwing in a guest here and there, and won't be gone away for sure. But I sure love tonight, and please say hello to Ari for me, Robert. He's a good friend, and love what y'all are doing with him on his evening shifts. That's must see TV. Ari's a great guy, and
I agree.
we've had him on here before, but what he's doing is great. I was telling I was because James is going to be on Van Dillen's show in a few weeks. That's going to be really fun. But I was telling them about Ari coming to eat hot chicken in Birmingham. Because I understand he has this penchant for hot food, so he came and we had this place here in Birmingham, where they have something called "Shut the Cluck Up" chicken, and I challenged Ari to eat the chicken with me, and he took one bite of it and looked at me and he said, "Bill, this isn't edible." And I got to eat both of our chickens, but I decided yesterday, in honor of Ari, I would go and have that during my lunch break at the Weather Network, and I paid the price for it in the next
Was
12
this
hours after
Eugene's or
it.
Hattie B's? Which one
No,
was
it was
this?
actually
Eugene's
Hattie
or
B's.
okay?
I hadn't been to Hattie B's in a long time. Our local place is Eugene's, and it is really expanding. They're about to open a place in Montgomery, and I love Eugene's too. But I hadn't been to Hattie B's in a long time, so I went there yesterday during my lunch break. But just in honor of Ari, because they predated Eugene's coming to Birmingham.
Hey, Robert, if you want to plug anything, this is your shameless plug segment. Go plug social accounts, anything you want to before we wrap
Yeah.
it up. Go.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I feel the same way about Ari's show. First of all, it is unlike anything you're going to watch on
That's right.
any weather network. He's really smart, and he pulls no punches. He's informative and entertaining at the same time. So big fan of his as well, and everything that he's doing. Overall, again, I cannot stress enough the amount of opportunities that one has to watch Fox Weather in so many different places. Anywhere in the world, YouTube, Fox Weather, just Google it on Fox Weather YouTube live. You'll come up. We are live nonstop anywhere in the world. Our social media presence is significant. Jamaica in itself, our coverage from the ground garnered across all Fox Weather social media platforms well over 250,000 views. That is just mind-boggling. You got to, when you think about how many people tuned into that. So we're providing important information across multiple platforms and continue to innovate. That's the key, innovation here at Fox Weather. And on top of that, if you want to follow what I'm currently doing with all of the raw video from every single day of coverage, that chronological journey that I'm trying to take viewers on without narration, without writing, it's no holds barred. It is very raw. And you can go to my social media accounts. It's at Robert Ray Reports on Instagram. What is it on X, Twitter? I think I am, what am I? Let's see. I'm at Robert Ray WX, meaning at Robert Ray Weather. That's on X. And then you can find me on LinkedIn as well. My Facebook page is personal. I do have a public one, but it's just a lot of work to keep up with. So I figured Instagram and X and LinkedIn is the best route. So that's that's all I need to say about the plugging and everything, guys. And beyond that, I can't tell you how much I appreciate being on and having the ability to, tell my story and the story of our network, Fox Weather, and some of the experiences that I've had, in the field, and why I do it and why many of us are out there. And we're gonna continue to press and push the boundaries at Fox Weather safely, but with a view of doing things that are different, and making what we're trying to present more real and have the average Joe understand the severity of what is headed to their community, no matter where they're at, whether they're in America, the Caribbean, or anywhere else around the globe. So that's the mission.
Awesome. Robert, thank you so much for your time tonight. We do appreciate it. It's been a good show. And by the way, for those watching or listening, if you're new here, we are typically on the air every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. You can watch us on the WeatherBrains YouTube channel, WeatherBrains on YouTube. But we know that most of you listen to the produced audio podcast. If you watch, if you listen, thank you. And if you would like to get in touch with us, we would love to hear from you. Comments, questions, show, suggestions, just let us know. Email at weatherbrains.com. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week and God bless. Happy Thanksgiving.
And I turn
Thanks,
on my
everybody.
Fox Weather channel, and there's Ari right there,
There you
Robert.
go.
There
Thanks,
you go.
Robert.